New Fort Fisher Museum Center, and you have accessible sidewalks going over to the fort. So this is around 8:30 in the morning, and it's an earthen fort. So you have the wood from the trees that would be the ramparts or the stockade-ish walls, and then the earth mound section that would have little cubbies in it, mostly for ammo storage and protection from bombardment. You have displays of nautical guns. These would have been affixed on a pivot point with a metal railing that they could pivot the cannon to the left and to the right to cover an area of range or field of fire. And then the cannon could also rotate forward and back for distance. And they did not fill in the bore. The bore is still open on this. Again, this is all reconstruction, but you can see the building techniques where they would have taken tree trunks, spiked them off to join them together as a wall of defense. Getting ready to enter the fort, and you have a couple of artillery pieces here that would be field guns. They could reposition these anywhere they would need to fill in the gaps of the field of fire. But you can see that the sidewalk is flat and it's sloped and it's nice and easy for strollers and wheelchairs. Very accessible. And going to head into the fort. So you can see here what time the gates close to the entrance of the fort. And we're just going to walk right through. Very windy today. You have some of the maritime forest over here as well, windswept trees. Might walk up on top of the rampart. You know, you see a flight of steps, you got to see it, right? So one of the reasons why Fort Fisher was here was to protect the mouth of the Cape Fear River, or the Cape Fear River entrance going into Wilmington, North Carolina, which was a vital shipping port for the Confederacy, or the southern states. So here again you can see one of the fixed guns emplacements, and you see the rail that I spoke of here that you could pivot the cannon around, and then you could roll the gun forward and back. It also had the ability, once it fired, for the gun to recoil backwards, and then once they bring it back, you would have a crew that would swab it or clean it, and then load the new cannon ball in, the powder, the cannonball, and then they would fire again. So up here on the rampart, You would have cannonballs, bags of powder, and then a crew manning this gun emplacement. So as we're going to come down, if you look, the steps, there's handrails that are very stable coming down to the lower level. So if you have some mobility issue, you still have very good access of holding on for stabilization. And this is how they could travel between the areas. So this was going to be an exhibit area in here. That area could be a representation of where they would have stored powder or cannonballs as we're walking through the ramparts. And then there would be another gun emplacement here going up to the top. And then you could just continue to walk through. Again, sorry about the artifact of sound because it is a very windy day today. I'm down here at the very far end of the Carolina Beach Peninsula, Pleasure Island Peninsula. The North Carolina Ferry Terminal is in that direction. That will take you over to Southport, North Carolina. And then you can also pick up a private ferry to take you over to Ballhead Island, which that's a really nice trip for the day. You see if there's a set of steps going through the Maritime Forest. There is a ramp here, little steep on the first slope, but the second slope is very accessible. And then you can see the overall area of the ramparts through here. And they have little depictions, information placards. And we're just going to walk through the Maritime Forest here. But again, there are park benches along the way. Nice little area. And this time of morning, we're the only ones here. So the Atlantic Ocean is behind me across the road, and in front of me, that body of water is the Cape Fear River, and that's what this fort was to protect. The trade and the commerce traveling up the Cape Fear River. Here's a true depiction of shipping along the river. So I'm going to continue just to walk along the edge of the trail here. This is just absolutely beautiful today. Give you an overall view of what you can enjoy when you come down here. And I know I've already said this, but at like 8:30 in the morning, there's nobody here. So not only was Wilmington a very vital shipping port for the southern states, during the Revolutionary War, it housed a very famous general at the Wright House in downtown Wilmington, and that would be General Cornwallis, who was in charge of the Southern campaign in the South until he got reallocated and moved to Northern Virginia, or the eastern shore of Virginia, where he oversaw the Battle of Yorktown, and ultimately the British surrendered at Yorktown. But Cornwallis refused to hand over his sword, so one of his junior officers did that for him. So you can see the marshland here. Again, the Fort Fisher Ferry Terminal, North Carolina Department of Transportation, would be that way. The North Carolina Aquarium at Fort Fisher is that way. You have the ocean on the other side of the earthen dunes, not even a quarter of a mile walk, and there's parking over there. You have the fort here, and then this body of water out here is the Cape Fear River. So leading to the mouth of the Cape Fear River is that way where Southport is located, and going to the right, going upriver, would be the city of Wilmington, North Carolina. Okay, let's continue with our walk around the ramparts earthen structure of Fort Fisher. They have little bird boxes attached to the trees here. So you can see at the other end of this wooden boardwalk is another wheelchair ramp. That gives you access back to the hardened sidewalk area. And then the stockade fencing. And you can walk along the grounds here, and we'll do that. We'll walk inside the earthen dome structure again, go up and look at another cannon. But you can see how close the defense of the Cape Fear River was right through here. So here's a very good depiction of what the defensive layout would be for the fort. And you can see that we are here, which would be that earthen mound structure right there, and that's the Shepherd's Defense Battery. And then you can tell the fort would have continued around that direction and going up to the left, which is going this way and up to the left where we first came in at. And then you can see that there is a depiction of what the battery section would look like. So again, pretty steep stairwell. It's accessible. Has nice wooden rails here. Be nice if there was another set of metal ones here for people to really hold on to as they climbed. The steps are shallow. They're not tall. Have a very good running tread. And again, this is Shepherd's Battery. So there would have been 2 guns in this battery. And this is facing towards the northern defense of the fort because it was vulnerable. And if I remember correctly, that is how the North finally invaded, as they came down through Wilmington. They bypassed the fort, came down through Wilmington, and came in on the north side of the fort. Laid siege to the fort. You can see how the wheels would follow the wooden track here. And it's actually metal, it's not wood, it's metal track. And you have a pivot point there. And the bore is open on this one as well, looking to the north. I like the reconstruction of the fort. I remember coming here as a child, and it was not this elaborate. You could go into some small places here at Shepherd's Battery, and this would go inside. So let's walk around the outside again. They're still repairing some structures. And just be observant of signage. And then you can see the defense of Fort Fisher right here. More resting areas. I have to ask inside the visitor center how far of the walk it is to circumnavigate the entire fort. And I think I went through the trail backwards, but it's okay. Nice leisurely trip. So when you come out of the back of the visitor center to start the trail, head off to the right and go opposite of the way I just went. But I like to find my own way. So I want to thank everybody who follows along with me on my channel. I really enjoy doing these videos, and if you watch to the end, it really helps. And if you like the video, or you can become a subscriber, that really helps me. I'm very close to one of my original goals was to, I know this sounds small, but 1,000 subscribers. That means a whole lot to me. That I know there's 1,000 people out there that enjoy what I do, and I try to make it interesting, a little bit of history involved, and then I talk about accessibility for people with mobility issues. So we're going to continue the tour. We're not all the way done with the circumnavigation of the fort. So let's walk towards where we started our walk from, which again is in the reverse order. But if you follow along in the order when you come out of the back of the visitor center and you go to the right, it'll give you the chronological history of Fort Fisher with these displays as you walk around and experience what was here. You can pause the video here so you can read these. With my visual impairment, I cannot read that unless I'm like 4 or 5 inches away from that size of font. So I'm just not going to do that today. And the road that's just where the trees are and the cars that you see moving left and right, that is 421. The southernmost point of 421. And if you've ever looked at my Area 51 video, you might see a sticker on the extraterrestrial highway sign that says 421 South. Don't know how I got there, but it was there.